What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down what the news, data, and technicals are telling us about the overall market, how this may affect Tesla, and also why tomorrow is going to be an absolutely massive day as we have earnings coming out tomorrow after the market closes. So I will provide you guys with lots of information involving earnings from when it's actually going to happen, what you should watch for during the big event, and how it may affect Tesla's share price going into Thursday. But before I break anything down about this, before I get into any more details about Tesla, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. Now, I know the offer was supposed to end yesterday, but Webull has extended it for another 6 days. And the way it works is if you sign up to my link down below and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $3,000. And the best part is any could be a free Tesla share. It's a limited time offer, once again, ending in just 6 days. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Tesla was down 1.46% for the day, actually underperforming a little bit compared to the overall market. But we did actually see the SPY and QQQ do something very similar to what I predicted. We did actually see a nice pullback in the market going forward, followed by a bit of a bounce, and SPY actually barely closed in the green. So did the QQQ. But Tesla actually felt at the end of the day getting a bit of a sell off, and it did not actually try to rally the way we were hoping for. And now looking at it, it is actually starting to show some signs of weakness. Looking at the chart from here, now, overall, it is still technically holding up very close to where this pennant has been, but earnings expectations have come out and they're actually not the most optimistic for Tesla. If the market was expecting like super bullish earnings for Tesla, we would have likely seen this thing outperform the market and hold up a lot better, but so far it's not really doing this. For tomorrow, there is a chance Tesla might trade sideways, maybe try to bounce again, but overall, I'm not really counting on too much crazy price action approaching earnings. And what matters more would be earnings itself for Tesla. Now, the way Tesla performs also will depend on the market, what news is coming out, and the earnings before the market opens. So I first want to talk about those, and then I'm going to break down Tesla's earnings and why it still is going to be very impactful for the entire stock market going forward. But to start us off, looking at the fear and greed index, the market is still very, very greedy. We're actually getting very close to extreme levels. And when this actually reaches extreme levels or gets close to doing so, this tends to mark tops in the market. So we're getting very close to that. On top of that, looking at momentum indicators, they're extremely greedy. The stock market strength is still very greedy. And overall, we're continuing to see the McCullen volume summation index looking greedy as well. So now a lot of people are starting to buy in. The overall put and call ratios from a 5-day average standpoint is actually more on the greedy side as well. It's a little bit different for SPY specifically, but we are seeing lots of buyers stepping in. Now, earnings has been very, very interesting. Charles Schwab came out on Monday. It actually did better than expected for the most part. Guidance was not like the greatest though. Most of the banks have been doing okay so far or pretty good. For Tuesday, which is today, Bank of America and Goldman Sachs, they both did relatively well. Not the greatest, though. I don't think Goldman Sachs did that great, but still better than most expectations overall. Then in Netflix has just reported earnings. They actually beat on EPS. They did barely meet expectations for revenue, but they did miss some expectations when it came to like subscribers and stuff like that. So Netflix has very mixed earnings. So far, this has been a better than expected, the overall earnings cycle. So that is a good sign for Tesla, but we can't become too complacent because of what on earth many analysts are saying about Tesla. I will break that down in a couple of minutes, but just so you guys know, before the market opens, okay, we have Ally Bank, we have NASDAQ, and we also have Morgan Stanley and ASML. Morgan Stanley is going to be one of the big ones for tomorrow before the market opens. This will affect how Tesla and the market performs in the beginning. But after the market closes, that's when we have the big dogs. We have Discover first off, then we also have IBM, and then Tesla as well. That's going to be very, very impactful for the entire market. Tesla is going to affect both SPY and QQQ, and also the sentiment of investors going forward and sentiments for earnings expectations. Tesla is going to be the biggest one for tomorrow, so make sure you are ready for this. I think I have data on when it's supposed to start right here. Tomorrow at about, I think it's 4:30 p.m. Central Time, I believe. Around that time, Tesla should be actually reporting their earnings. I think the data should come out a little bit before that. Once again, very, very important stuff. Make sure you're ready for the call. I'm not going to be recording any video beforehand. I don't think I'm going to have much time tomorrow, but after earnings is done, I should record a video maybe a little bit later. Once again, it's going to be very, very big and very impactful for Tesla. Now, if Tesla does very well and they beat all expectations, right, we also have to look at specific details because EPS and revenue are not everything in this case. Margins, right, their free cash flow, and also guidance are going to be super important. If things are more positive in the eyes of investors' standpoints, Tesla could actually continue to soar to the upside and surprise most investors. Or if Tesla does not do as well and does not meet all expectations, the share price could crash. And if Tesla starts tanking, it's not going to be good for the QQQ and also for SPY. So make sure you're ready for this. Now, when it comes to the options chain for SPY specifically, it's not too crazy for tomorrow, which is why that's part of why we could see some downside. Also, technicals are suggesting we could see lots of choppy price action tomorrow. But by the time we get to Friday, do not forget that the calls in the money and out of the money are pretty mixed, over 500,000 on each side. But we have only about 40,000 puts in the money and over 3.4 million puts out of the money expiring for Friday. That's very, very huge. 3.02 put to call ratio. This is going to be a massive battle coming forward for the markets. And the markets do affect Tesla. That's why it's very important to note this. Now, the way I see it is the market makers are going to try to hold the market up just like they're doing right now. They're going to try to get SPY to continue. And part of the way they do this is actually pumping Apple because Apple has a very big weight for the collective markets. But the shorts that are piling into puts, the shorts that are shorting the market in crazy, crazy ways, they are not going to be happy about this. And they're going to try very hard to get as many of these puts in the money as possible. With max pain being 403, it is going to be a wild ride by the time we get to Friday. Make sure you guys are prepared for this. But if this is signifying downside, what else could lead to downside would be Tesla. And if the shorts are going to try to short Tesla to cause the market to drop, that's also something you have to be prepared for just in case. But once again, it depends on earnings going forward. Now, I just talked about Netflix, mixed earnings overall, and we will see how they actually perform for tomorrow. Looking at some data for tomorrow, just real quick. We have some mortgage data and also some crude oil data with the Fed speaker at about, I believe it's 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. But anyways, transitioning to Tesla, the inventory levels were actually all the way down here in like the 200s just a couple of weeks ago. Now they're all the way up in the 500s. They're actually still above 500 at 528 being the latest report from today. This tells me that maybe production is playing a role in this because they are producing more cars, but demand is not keeping up like before during times like this during Q1. And this is likely because of the fact that Tesla has some demand issues as once again, the prices of used cars are going to continue to drop to spur up demand. People are less fixated on taking on mortgages, more loans, getting car loans, and etc. And that's because of the Fed funds rate going up and raising interest rates. And that's still affecting Tesla. So I do believe Tesla needs to actually account for this and talk a lot about this. We're going to get lots of information in the next earnings reports. So make sure you are open-minded and you listen to this very carefully. On top of that, Tesla is not looking too great because we have very low volume, which means it's getting ready for a massive, massive move, I would say on Thursday. By the time we get to Thursday, maybe even a part of Wednesday after the market closes, Tesla's going to swing like crazy. Make sure you're ready for this. It's getting ready. The volume is low, and it's once again going to be making some huge moves. When volume increases, it's going to either sell off super hard or we're going to see this thing just rocket all the way back to the upside. I will talk about the specific levels a little bit later. And finally, short volume is starting to increase a bit. There is a little bit more shorting on Tesla. I don't think the data here is going to reflect that just yet. The short interest is a little bit low as of a couple of days ago, but I do believe this is going to start spiking up as shorts are likely piling in right before earnings. So they might try to short this thing very hard very soon. That could lead to some downside for Tesla, maybe some sideways action. Make sure you're ready for that and prepared for that for tomorrow if that is what their plan is. On top of that, Tesla tends to be green 49% of the time on Wednesdays. Once again, we're typically not the best on Wednesdays. And also, Barclays is more bullish on Tesla, We have a tendency of beating on earnings. You can see right here compared to consensuses. So that's a good sign for Tesla. They do have a tendency of beating. I'm really hoping they beat this time around. That will actually cause a potential short squeeze if they beat and also give good guidance going forward. But at the same time, it could backfire because the shorts will really love to pounce on Tesla if things don't go as planned. The price price ratio is now likely dropping. It actually is going to be below this area, which tells me Tesla has some relative weakness and it needs a big catalyst for any hope of this thing actually pushing up. Now, for the news that came out, Tesla launched a new Model 3 with almost 400 miles of range, but it's just for businesses in the UK for now. Once again, they are working very hard on improving their models, and I do believe they are going to continue to increase their ranges as the years go on. Tesla will actually give us more announcements about this during earnings, so once again, that's very awesome. Now, what else could be a big surprise is the possibility, I heard some people talk about this, of Tesla actually giving us more hints about their new vehicles coming out. There's no guarantee they're going to do that. They don't oftentimes do this during earnings reports, but if they do that, that could actually cause a big improvement in the price action. We'll have to just wait and see how it goes, but I'm not really counting on it, right? It's kind of risky to kind of bet on that happening. I'm not really doing that. And that's the reason why, I mean, it's just one possibility, some big announcement like that during earnings, but it's not a guarantee. Now, Tesla Rati, or Rati, however you say it, they're actually talking about the fact that Tesla investors want to know about the Cybertruck and the margins coming out. I do agree. One of the biggest things is going to be the margins. Everyone's going to be looking at those because of all these price cuts. If there are actually as many investors are speculating, this could actually lead to lots of volatility in the price action. But but we want to know the future. What is going to happen to their margins going forward? Could Tesla maintain very, very good margins? Could Tesla continue to outperform? We're going to find out very, very soon. We do not want to see margins drop below 20%, despite some analysts projecting that. Now, looking at the current decline, it's set to see about 23%. I did mention this yesterday. If we do actually meet these expectations, it could be okay, but if it's once again lower, not going to be the best of signs. So we have to be very careful with the margins and the data coming out for tomorrow. And finally, Yahoo Finance has a very nice article about the future of Tesla and also what we should be watching for earnings. So I just wanted to go over some things they mentioned here. Zach's consensus overall is about a 0.85 per share earnings for Tesla. That's actually a 20% decline from the $1.07 EPS. So most investors are speculating that Tesla is going to see a decline in the EPS compared to the previous quarter. That's a real possibility and it's very likely. But once again, we'll just have to wait and see how it goes once the numbers actually come out. Sales are expected to be up about 25% at 23.56 billion versus 18 billion in Q1 of 2022. That's once again very likely, or at least numbers close to that, because they are producing a lot more and technically they could still sell more cars than what they sold in 2022, probably will. But once again, I'm not as confident about them meeting every expectation though from that end because of the margins and also because of the decline in volume for the cars market. Now, on top of that, we're seeing more and more data coming out involving how the overall drop in some commodities has actually helped Tesla. In my opinion, that is actually the truth. That is very, very important. And I do believe this will actually continue to help Tesla going forward. Now, there has been a lot of talk about more price cuts. We're going to find out if Tesla plans on doing this or not. If they do mention that, that's going to be very important too. Could there be more price cuts for the Model S sedan? I'm not too sure. We'll just have to wait and see on that. And finally, for deliveries and demand, they're going to talk about how on earth will demand continue to remain high and what is going to be the difference between production expectations and delivery expectations. If they set the numbers and they give us a very big difference, this could be a little concerning for some investors. But as long as their overall deliveries number for Q2 is not too bad, if it still shows a nice increase, that's still going to be bullish news for them. So once again, they could actually still look good in the eyes of investors. It just depends on how they present the numbers. On top of that, how is growth going to look? We're going to find out more information about this. Some individuals are expecting another decline in the overall earnings, right, for Tesla. They're expecting a dip of about 5% this year, followed by a climb by 33% for 2024 as a whole at 5.11 per share. Now, it's going to likely look something like this in their opinion. for the overall year, not the best for 2023, followed by a nice rebound. That's very likely and very possible since we are in a recessionary environment. But once again, if Tesla outperforms, that could still be bullish for them. For sales, they're expected to just continue to increase. That's once again good news for us. And finally, we're going to be looking at the performance and valuation and also just more updates involving their products from full self-driving technology to the robotics. What are they going to talk about when it comes to the Dojo supercomputer? What are they going to talk about when it comes to the next updates involving the full self-driving technology? Tesla is going to likely give us way more updates about that. And I do believe that if they give us something the investors could actually chew on, that is going to be very good for the share price and the price action going forward. If not, if Tesla does not like completely blow us away, then we need some strong earnings. That's when like the EPS, the margins, all that will matter a lot more. And that's going to be very important for tomorrow. Now let's talk about the charts. What am I seeing right now? Well, first let's talk about SPY and QQQ and then Tesla. When it comes to Tesla, it is actually starting to show some signs of weakness. We're about to get a crossover on the PPO. And overall, I mean, I was really hoping this thing would try to kind of like uptrend approaching earnings. And that is what typically happens like the large majority of the time. Tesla tends to actually rise as we approach big events. And this time it's not really happening. And that's largely because of the fact that many investors are not expecting Tesla to give us the strongest of earnings. They're expecting declines here and there. They're expecting Tesla to not have the strongest EPS and etc. So as a result of those kinds of expectations, we're not really seeing Tesla take off like it has in the past. It's not really outperforming the market as its overall strength is decreasing. So what do I see for tomorrow? Well, once I show you guys SPY and QQQ, there's likely going to be lots of choppy price action. We might see Tesla just try to make some attempts to go up again and retest this trend line around this 186 level, maybe a little higher, but it might just, once again, chop around a lot, trade sideways as the stock is just going to wait for earnings, excuse me, guys. And then we might even see this thing slough a little bit. So it doesn't really matter too much. I'm just expecting lots of choppy price action tomorrow. I was really hoping in the past we would see Tesla uptrend approaching earnings. Still is a possibility, but it's looking less likely now looking at the chart and also at the market. Where it opens will depend on the bank earnings, of course. And then from there, I just anticipate this thing just chopping around, trading sideways for the most part. And we may have to just wait for earnings to get the bigger move. Now, tomorrow's close for Tesla does not matter. It does not matter too much. If it closes near 180 or like the lower 180s, it doesn't matter. It could always rebound thanks to strong earnings. But if it ends up pumping and it gets closer to like 190, all right, that also does not matter because it could always crash on bad earnings, right? So it does not matter at this point. We really are just waiting for earnings, and that's what's going to affect Tesla the most. When it comes to SPY, however, I just want to note that we could see some downwards pressure for the market. SPY barely closed in the green. It did almost exactly what I predicted. A bit of a drop into open, sideways action, a nice bounce, and actually a green close for the S&P 500 and also for SPY. What do I see for tomorrow? Well, we're actually getting very close to testing this trend line. When you zoom out, we have this channel right here, right? Notice how we would touch it. Hold on. We would touch it basically and we would basically just bounce off of it like crazy when we were very bullish here. We touch it, bounce, get rejected off the top, bounce, go and go and go. And this thing was looking like it had stronger fluctuations, like here, strong move, comes down, bounces a little bit. And then look at what happened recently. Recently, it's kind of weakening a bit, and that's because of the fact that the majority of stocks are starting to slow down. But the big stocks out there, like Apple, are actually helping this thing hold up. So what I'm seeing is it's now just touching this trend line over and over again. We're likely going to try to fight for this for tomorrow. If we're very bearish or more on the bearish side, we're likely going to see it break below this and get down to 411. That would be a very bearish signal for the markets. If we're bullish, we could actually rally to 416. What do I think is going to happen? I'm anticipating a pop, bit of a pop kind of like today, going into the open. Then it might kind of trade sideways, retest this trend line, and we could actually see this thing decline, chop around a bit and close a little bit in the red. I'm not sure if we're going to close above this trend line or a little bit below it, but that could actually happen tomorrow as we're actually showing some signs of price exhaustion. But even if we do close a little red tomorrow, it's not the end of the world because there is a possibility that this trend, the upside, could continue going forward later on, depending on earnings for Tesla and IBM and other banks. But going forward for the more medium term, right, for the next couple of weeks, because I'm just talking about the next couple of days. When I talked about the downside that could come for SPY, for the next few days, just a little bit of downside in shop. But what about the next few weeks? What about May? For May, I am anticipating downside for the stock market, more downside, a much bigger pullback all the way down to the lower 400s, if not lower, because of what I'm seeing on the VIX and many other technical signals. Remember, on the 1 hour time frame, we have a bearish divergence developing on SPY. There's no guarantee it plays out yet. Even if we do pull back a little bit, there's no guarantee it's ready yet. But excuse me, in the future, I do see this eventually breaking down. Maybe we drop a little bit tomorrow and try to rebound later, but going into May, I am seeing this thing reversing pretty hard. Maybe sooner, I'm just not too sure. But overall, that's basically what I'm seeing right now. Looking at the dollar index, once again, one thing that gives the market some hope is the dollar. The dollar could be forming a head and shoulders. If it does end up coming down like this, that could be bullish for the markets. That does not mean the market has to break out more. It could just trade sideways even during a move like this. But the dollar is looking more bullish to me. When you look at the daily chart, there's a possible bullish divergence developing. Also on the weekly, the same thing on the dollar. And the dollar is very, very undervalued. It's been dropping very hard, getting closer to 200 EMA on the weekly. We have a bullish divergence. Soon it's likely going to get a rebound. If this thing does start to break out, that's going to be very bearish for the stock market. So we'll have to wait and see when it's ready. So far, it's not ready yet. And it may take a few weeks, but the dollar is basically telling us that the market's likely going to top soon over the next week or so. And then we're going to see a big downtrend in the market very soon, maybe closer to May. And the dollar is telling us that's going to happen very soon. For uh, another stock like the QQQ, and I'm just going to talk about a couple of stocks for the video, not make this video way too meticulous. On the 1 hour time frame, the QQQ is actually just chopping around and not really doing a whole lot. It could actually try to continue to chop, maybe retest this trend line tomorrow, get closer to like the 317s, but it might try to hold temporarily, and it might just wait for the bigger earnings from IBM and Tesla. Now, if Tesla does very well, this thing is going to fly up. If Tesla does not do as well, this is going to slow down. And at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about Tesla, by the way, in more detail about the price action. Just give me a couple of minutes. The VIX looks like it should bounce soon, right? It's very, very undervalued right now, but there's no guarantee yet. It should bounce soon, but there's no like sign of it bouncing just yet. It's very undervalued. It actually hit the 16s, the lowest level since early last year, one of the lowest levels we've seen in like many years for the VIX. In my opinion, if this thing continues to drop, because there's no true sign of a real bounce yet, that's going to be bearish for the markets. But because we're about to get this like almost PPO crossover, there is a chance it might try to bounce very soon. So maybe tomorrow we try to get back above 17. If that's the case, then that could be bearish for the markets temporarily. And we'll see if the VIX could try to keep going, if it just fails again. There were instances where the VIX tried to break out like right here and then it just failed anyways. So we could see something like that as well. This basically tells me the market could pull back a little bit tomorrow, but it does not guarantee we're crashing as of right now. It could tell us that the market's going to crash soon, but we just need more confirmation. But for this short term, I am seeing this actually pushing up a little bit as the market does decline. Apple's still holding up nicely. It's going to likely pull back, maybe try to get closer to filling this gap and test gap support. If it does break below 165, it could come down to like the lower 165s to about 164 flat. If that's the case, the market could decline a little bit and then it might try to bounce off the 50 EMA and just continue to chop around a bit. I'm seeing that for Apple, just lots of choppy price action. It is holding up nicely, but we actually are on the verge of forming potential divergence, I believe. We have a bearish divergence that developed on the 1 hour time frame. The RSI was just continuing to increase while the price actually, declined compared to this top. So that could tell us Apple might decline a little bit and pull the market down just a little bit tomorrow. Finally, 10-year Treasury yield does not confirm anything just yet. We'll just have to wait and see what this does for the time being. If it does end up declining to fill this gap, then that could be bullish later on. But if it actually holds these levels and it does not decline too hard, that could also be bearish for the stock market. For now, it's just chopping around, so we'll have to wait and see what that does. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is NVIDIA before Tesla. NVIDIA did something very tricky. It actually tricked a lot of investors in this was this the head and shoulders formation that formed. Basically, Nvidia had this head and shoulders. It was showing lots of signs of weakness, right? This left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder. It was looking like it was going to come down. And what did they do? They pumped this thing up like crazy and destroy shorts. It was pretty insane and incredible how it did this. It actually broke the high it made previously. So now Nvidia looks like it's going to just continue to chop around a bit. We might decline a little bit to fill this gap, but once we fill the gap, we're going to be very close to the 50 EMA around 270. I'm expecting a retest of 270 at least. It could even go lower, but I'm not going to talk about the lower levels yet. I do believe it's going to fill this gap first and then maybe bounce later on. And then we'll see from there if it gets a small bounce and if it just starts declining much harder later on. We'll see about that. But for now, let's just talk about the short term moves. And that is a gap fill below temporarily. Now for Tesla, here's where my forecasts come in. We're getting very tight. We're expecting a massive move for Tesla. All right. Tomorrow, it doesn't really matter where we close. Like I said before, we're likely going to see some sideways action for Tesla. If the market declines, Tesla could decline a little bit more again, trade sideways, and close very close to where it is right now. I don't really expect too much, just lots of choppy price action. Could we pump as we approach earnings? I mean, typically we do, but right now Tesla is looking relatively weak. It's very unfortunate. Unfortunate. I was hoping that Tesla would try to pump, but it is what it is. But anyways, this does not matter though. Where Tesla closes tomorrow does not matter too much. As long as it kind of holds close to where it is right now, it's fine. What's going to happen tomorrow? Well, after the market closes, we have earnings. Once again, it's going to be at 4:30 p.m. Central Time, I believe, around 2:30 p.m. if you're on the West Coast, or a little bit later if you are in the East Coast. Now, if Tesla kills it for earnings, they beat on everything, and then Tesla tells us that demand is going to be strong, or if they give us some super bullish news, there's like a new product. No matter what happens, as long as the majority of the news is bullish, this thing has the potential to break out, push past 195 and fill the gap up here around 206. It could pump all the way up to 206 if we're bullish. All right, by the time we close tomorrow, going into Thursday, it could pump all the way back to 200 plus. But if earnings are not too good, if Tesla misses on earnings, guidance is not that great, their margins are just not what investors are expecting, Tesla could crash very hard all the way back to the 170s, if not even lower than that. It may even break below 176. It's going to likely crash if earnings are not the best, if guidance is not that great, if we do not get the estimates we want, if investors start to capitulate at faster rates, because the shorts are going to be relentless and start piling into Tesla and smack this thing down. They love to do that. And I'm warning you right now, if we don't get the best earnings, they're going to do it. Okay? So what's going to happen? I honestly do not know. That's why I'm not really going to hold anything overnight uh, when earnings comes out. I don't really plan on holding anything. I'm just going to secure all profits for now. And that's just my view, my opinion. And one thing to remember, although this is not financial advice, is the importance of being hedged and prepared for anything. All right. So expect a massive move starting after the market closes on Wednesday going into Thursday. Tesla's either going to end up pumping all the way back to 200, or it's going to crash all the way back down to the 170s or lower. Okay. That's going to happen by Thursday, most likely. Expect a big move, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Get ready, guys. Tesla to the moon, as the long term is very bright. The last thing is I have some merch for you guys. If you guys want to buy some custom merch, it's really your choice. The code SAVE5 will save you 5% off your order. Check it out if you're interested. If not, it's completely fine with me. Thank you, guys. Get ready for tomorrow. Tesla to the moon, and peace out.